This is part two. So when I left off, I really wanted to know just how big the Cherokee Nation is. Alright? And it's important for me. If not anything else, it's important for me just to know because of my ancestry being part Cherokee. Now, unless my great grandmother wasn't Cherokee and wound up being Iroquois or some other Native American um, ethnicity, I need to know. I also don't understand how, like, on TV, these guys can get DNA done in, like, 2 weeks. Yeah, it's like, hey, 24 hours, actually. Like, if you're watching Steve Wilkos and stuff, they get their damn DNA, boom, boom, you are the father, boom, you are the father. I'm like, okay, so how is it that they can do that, but you can't just tell me how much Native American I have in me, so I can go on and find my little thing for the American Indian Bureau of Affairs or the Bureau of American Indian Affairs or whatever the fuck this shit's called. And by the way, while we're there, I wouldn't even be on this journey right now if not for the fact that when I went to McGuire for like my last like physical checkup, I spoke to a man who was black and Native American, and he was like, "You like you're full-blooded Native American," and we went on all this conversation. And I kept trying to explain. I said, "No, my great grandmother was full-blood. I am black, white, and Native, and I'm black and white and Native on my mom's side, and I'm just Native and black on my dad's side." He said, "You sure about that?" I said, "Well, this is the shit that I've been told, so I'm pretty sure it's close to right. Now, as far as I know, we're not full blood, And he's like, well, you need to get this DNA test, and you need to contact the Native American Bureau of Indian Affairs and do this and do that. And I'm like, okay, so why do I need to do all that? Because if you're going to school, you can get a discount on however much percentage of Native American you are. And I did some research. Some of that is true. Some of that is not. That can vary from state to state. And then he's talking about some, you can get your Native American card. You might be able to get like some back pay for your ancestors and all that. I'm like, well, I don't want any of that shit. I just want to know how much Native I'm in since we have all this conversation going on. And some point it kind of feels like, yeah, I should use that, but there's good news and bad news, because the good news is I'm almost out of college. The bad news is I'm almost out of college. So it really wouldn't matter if I'm part Native or not when it comes to like college tuition being spliced or sliced or completely nullified or whatever. And it doesn't really matter because I'm really not in this for the money. It's more like I need it to know who I am. But if it's going to give me a Native American card, I guess I can live with that. And it will give me at least the ability to legally and literally say, yes, I am part Native, which would be cool as fuck. On the other hand, anything that's a victory for natives is probably a victory for me. So, I mean, I guess it depends on, there's a lot going on with that. And I don't really know how to receive it, perceive it, or even deliver it to y'all. So that's why it sounds like a big ass clusterfuck, because it is. This whole thing is a giant clusterfuck. And there have been plenty of times where I've said I wish I was full Cherokee. And I feel more Cherokee than black or white, just so that if that's out there, in case everything I just said 10 minutes ago goes back to bite me in the ass. Which with these videos, they generally do. Every time you make a video, something's going to bite you in the ass. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's a whole other ballgame. So just own your shit. Don't do your dirt if you're not willing to live with the consequences of doing your dirt. And a lot of people just do and say random shit. And I'll tell you, a good maybe 15 years ago, before I was in the military and before I was on this super let me find my heritage kick, I honestly was just like, okay, I'm proud that I have Native in me, and I just didn't give two shits about it. And then maybe years before that, this movie came out called On Deadly Ground. Had a Native story, because the Inuit are Native Americans, Eskimos. And one of my favorite Chinese actresses played a Native American. And I was thrown back for a hot minute. I was like, I think it probably was before I even got into college, before I knew Native Americans were Asian. I was like, that's Joan Chen. She's Chinese. She's not Native American. She's fucking Chinese. And I was going off, but only in my head, because I love Joan Chen. I love Joan Chen to death. Her husband's a very lucky man. Anyway, I'm sitting here and I'm watching Joan Chen play this Native American. And I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck does this happen? Because again, my ignorance, I didn't know Native Americans were Asian. So then, you know, years into that, or even that same year, I was watching Tales from the Crypt. And another one of my favorite Chinese actresses, Vivian Wu. I'd love to work with both of them. I know it's never going to happen. But if I got the chance, I would probably be starstruck. But, so I got to look at this episode of Tales from the Crypt. And a little drum beater was Vivian Wu. But Vivian Wu was also Chinese. And I'm like, didn't I just see her in Farewell My Concubine or some shit? Or Pillow Talk? How the fuck is she playing a Native American? And then later, somewhere in between that year and the year before or whatever, she was playing in Ninja Turtles 3. And I was like, okay, do I need to be confused? Do I need a psychological exam? Because she's Chinese and she's playing a Japanese person. Okay, off topic. Let me get off topic really, really fucking quickly. Alright, for the most part, anyone who was Asian that was in films between the 90s and the 60s, regardless of what ethnicity they were, 9 times out of 10, if you were in films, in TV, in movies, in culture before the 90s, there was still some tension between Japan and Korea, and America and Korea, and America and Japan. So if you were Asian and they needed you to play the bad person, you played Japanese if you were Asian, with maybe the exception of Sulu, excuse me. I got the two ethnic characters combined, just bad genders. George Takei played Japanese because he is Japanese. Where, the fuck is his name? It's not Grandpa. 1 second. This will tell me. The name of the actor that played Grandpa in Three Ninjas. He's passed away, by the way. Victor Wong. So, Victor Wong played a Japanese guy in Three Ninjas. Victor Wong is Chinese. Wong is a Chinese last name. Alright? James Hong, he's a Chinese actor. He's played Chinese. But a lot of actors have. He also was good in Big Trouble in Little Tokyo. I mean, god damn it, Showdown. Big Trouble in Little China. Showdown in Little Tokyo was a totally different movie, and Victor Wong did not play in that, and neither did James Hong. All right. Now, got that fuck up out the way. So, a lot of these Asian characters, Bruce Lee played Chinese in Kato. I don't know who he played in Hondo because I've never seen an episode of Hondo. But he played Chinese as Kato. But Kato is a Japanese name, I know. Anyway, we're not going to go there. Then fucking, let's see. I can't think of the actor's name. But a lot of Asian actors wound up playing the opposite of their actual Asian counterparts. So generally, if you were Chinese, you were either playing Japanese or some other Asian version. Freaking a lot of Chinese guys played Japanese guys in a lot of movies and shit. And it was work. So as an actor who's not working, trust me, I haven't worked in 21 years. I haven't been discovered yet. But as an actor, you sit back and you're like, damn, how's this happen? But to have Joan Chen, who I love, and Vivian Wu, who I also love, play Native American women, it fucked me up until my college buddy had broke it down for me. And again, short version, I was working out at Piedmont in what now is a basketball court, but it was just a hill, and I was doing kung fu. And my bro, Mr. Kim, came along, who's Korean, and at the time, for those who don't know, back in those days of early martial arts, there was rumors of Asians beating up people who thought they knew martial arts who were not Asian. And when he popped up, I had my bow staff, and I whipped that bitch around, and I was ready to fight him. And he's like, no, I'm not here for that. It's like, oh. He's like, you're not going to fight me? He's like, nah, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not here for that. I just want to know who the hell you were, and seeing you from a distance, I thought you were Chinese. I was like, no, not Chinese, not remotely even close to Chinese. He's like, well, I can see that you're mixed. I was like, yeah, I'm part Native American, part black, and part white. And that's pretty much how we became best friends. And he was like, you know Native Americans are Asian, right? I said, no, we're not. We're from fucking Atlantis. And he laughed at my ass and said, okay, we're going to the library. Go put your stick away. Put my stick away. And this is a condensed version, by the way. So we got into the library, and I lost the bet. No, Native Americans are biologically Asian. Like 90 fucking books later, he got me convinced. So I'm like, okay. So that went back to the Joan Chen and Vivian Wu being able to play Native American. So it's like, oh, great. So now I'm fucking racist and ignorant. So anyway, I wasn't racist. I was just a little upset that they didn't have an actual Native American play the female lead. And not that I don't love Joan Chen, and she did a damn good job. And not that I don't love Vivian Wu, and she did a damn good job. But it was just that they were playing natives, but they weren't natives. But because they were big-name actors, they could get the role, and so that the movie or the TV show would actually sell. And that works for me. I'm not going to complain about that, because as an actor who's not working, believe you me, I don't think they're going to hire me for Mr. Wong. But if they do, I'm going to be the best Chinese Mr. Wong you've ever seen. Yeah, I'll back about Victor Wong. He had a black wife. So, or at least he did on that Chinese documentary. Yeah, he had a black wife. But we're not going to go in there because this isn't about Victor Wong. This is about how big is the Cherokee Nation. Now, I'm going to make a third part of this, but I'm going to go get in a shower first. And then I'm going to post all my videos, and then I'm going to go to bed. Matter of fact, no, I'm just going to make the third part of this right now. Thanks for watching.